Hi, Kristian. Welcome to From the Stage Door.
Hello.
Hi, welcome, and thank you for joining me.
My pleasure.
So we're going to kick off with a few questions about your background. So have you always had a passion for theatre and performance?
I have. I don't think I've ever been a natural performer because I've always been fairly, well, most people who follow me will know that I always call myself a fairly shy person. And, as a child, that's kind of, even more exaggerated. I was a very shy child. And I really fell into it by accident because I went along to, I don't know what I thought I was going along to, but I was about 10 or 11 and I went to it was like a choir audition, but I didn't think it was. And then I got there and it was actually for the special choir, which was like this elite little choir.
Mm-hmm.
And when I realized that I would have to sing a solo, then I tried to back out of the room, like literally tried to back out of the room, and the teacher wouldn't let me go until I got up in front and sung in front of everybody. And then I got in. So that started me off really. And really my teachers were always pushing me to get involved and do stuff like that. And I always had a pretty loud singing voice. So those music teachers were always keen to have me, in there. Yes. So I could build up the sound. And that's how I got started, really.
Cool. So what was your first ever professional theatre job?
My first ever professional theatre job was doing a show called The Fantastics, which is one of the longest shows playing on Broadway or off Broadway or something like that. And it's been playing since the 60s. And it's a lovely story and it's got some lovely music in there. And the music was really popular in its day. And and that was my first professional job. It was in New Zealand because a lot of my acting my acting work has been based in New Zealand, where I went to high school. And I did that. It was a lovely job. Yeah.
Cool.
I have fond memories of it.
Yeah. Who was your greatest influence growing up?
Performance-wise, I was in a small town, so I didn't, and I come from a completely non-theatre background. My family aren't really into theatre at all, and there weren't any big shows or anything like that available where I was, so I didn't see a lot of theatre. And so I was just aware with sort of, the just general stuff there. I listened to a lot of Andrew Lloyd Webber stuff and, a lot of commercial stuff that, the general public would probably know, and I just had people around me that were skilled and talented teachers. And so initially they were my biggest influence. Yeah. And I really admired them and their skills and talents, and mainly they were, talented teachers.
Yeah.
So, I think that's important for every person, every performer, really. It's those people who encourage them, because when you're young, you don't really know what you want to do or what you're going to end up doing. You have no idea.
Cool. So what was the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Get involved. I think people were really keen to have me involved as a teenager and stuff. And like I said, get involved in the choir. But they were keen to get me involved in anything. I think they realized that I had some skills, and also realized that I was keen. And so they would get me involved in anything. So when I was in high school, I was working on the props table for the Amateur Operatic Society. And, I was doing choirs, and I was doing theatre groups and drama groups, and going on intensive theatre courses in my school holidays, and doing stuff like that. And when people ask me now, what do I need to do? My answer is always just get involved. It doesn't make any difference what you do. It doesn't make any difference whether you're the dresser, or whether you're the usher, or whether you're on stage, or whether you are helping out in the costume department. It doesn't. Every piece of every job is a part of the puzzle of theatre, And I think if you're in theatre, you have to be involved in it all. You
Yeah.
shouldn't just be doing one thing.
Yeah.
And you should definitely have, even if you go, oh, well, I'm an actor, you should definitely have an awareness of what every person does.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I don't think it can do any harm to understand the process of how everything works. I think, especially as a performer, if you know how backstage works and front of house works, you're more appreciative of the whole thing. And it is one family as well. Everybody has to work together.
I've also worked on stage door.
Best job ever.
A little while there, I was on the stage door of the Dominion in the West End.
Oh, wow.
And when I first got to London, it was fun, but I felt very anonymous there.
Yeah.
Very anonymous.
Yeah.
I became very shy. I was too shy to talk to the actors.
Bless. So, talking of shyness, how do you deal with nerves when you're performing? Do you get them?
I get them every day, yeah. And I think it's possibly been the ongoing battle of my work. Yeah, I've always had a problem with nerves, and I feel like I've got them under control, but I also realize it's like a wave.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go, oh my gosh, this is brilliant, it's going well, and then the next day something random might happen, and that just might trigger them off, and then you're getting nervous over silly things again. And so I always try and keep them in check, but sometimes you can also give them too much power.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about them as if they're their own entity, but you can give them too much power, and sometimes it's good to go, I don't give a damn, whatever happens, and that I really admire that in other performers. And recently I have admired that in myself. When I've been doing a show, recently I was doing a show in New Zealand, and I occasionally muck up, and then you just brush it off. And I was, at the end of it, I'd be quite proud of myself for just brushing it off, because sometimes it's really difficult when you've got thousands of people staring at you or hundreds of people staring at you, and to brush those kind of things off, it's challenging. Yeah. But I actually think it's one of those things that can sometimes destroy a brilliant performer. And I've seen people, actors, especially as actors get older, because I think those things kind of get more accentuated when they're older, because when you get a bit older, you are prone to making a few more mistakes, because it's just even the split-second decision can put you off. And I've seen a lot of old performers give up before their time, because it's too much. Yeah. But so I just think I think there's possibly a lot more information out there now than there used to be. And because people are a lot more aware of mental health these days, and I think nerves comes into mental health. Yeah. And I think so yeah, I always get a little bit nervous though. Even if I'm at my best, I cannot go on and just go, as if you're walking to get a cup of coffee. I could never walk on stage like that. And there's always a level of you're kind of bouncing at or at. So yeah.
Do you have like dressing room routines that you have to do, like rituals that you have to do? Do you have anything like that helps with nerves?
I do, but actually I found the best thing for me is not to have a routine.
Okay.
And because everything with performance is a routine. Everything is exactly the same, in exactly the same place, exactly the same time. The people you pass backstage, you pass them at exactly the same moment. And actors are ritualistic. You'll say hello to somebody, or you'll wave at somebody at the same time. And sometimes, if suddenly it becomes a routine, you go, oh well, I have to do that. I have to do that. Then it'll all go wrong, which is ridiculous. But as actors, we do that all the time, and it's caused the ritualistic manner of the whole shebang. And so yeah, but I realize, although that can be fun sometimes, it can also be challenging, because if you go on stage and you muck up at a certain point, then because of the repetition of it, you'll get to the next point and you'll go, oh, this is where I muck up. And then you'll get to the next day and go, this is where I muck up. And that repetition gets into your brain of, this is where you muck up until you will muck up. So, and then it becomes an even bigger thing. So I've actually found out the best way of doing that, and you also get to certain points you go, oh, this is the bit I get nervous. This is the bit this is the bit I worry about. This is the note I'm worried about getting. This is, so, you know, and because of the repetition of it, you can make the tiniest thing into something monumental and huge. And so my advice for anyone who's going through those sort of things is to completely break the routine. Completely break the routine of what you do backstage. Completely routine. Don't wave at that person at that moment. Don't do stuff like that. Don't, when you get on stage, when you normally think about that, don't think about that. Stop yourself from thinking that. And so that your brain doesn't come to expect you to get nervous, doesn't expect you to start worrying. And yeah, so that's my routine, is trying to have no routine. Challenging though. It's challenging when your job is repetition.
Definitely. I think we can be like, as a performer, you can be your own worst enemy, because you overthink everything as a normal anyway. So try not to overthink something, and not.
There aren't many jobs you have where thousands of people staring at you. Like, you know, if you're doing if you're in an office and you muck up, you know, maybe your boss or your colleague will realize you've mucked up. But if you muck up as an actor, there are thousands of people who are staring at you. And that, so it intensifies that little muck up to being huge. It's very uncomfortable.
It's a very weird profession, isn't it? But, you know.
a lot of actors talk about the white heat that comes then when you muck up, which is like, it's an intense rush of blood, of terror, basically, that rushes through you, and you just go really, really hot. And the white heat. Awful.
Not good. So what's your favorite theatre to perform in?
I'm a fan of a lot of the old theatres, and so I'm a bit of a photographer on the side, so and I realize I'm in a privileged position to be in a lot of these amazing old buildings when no one else is there, when there's no audience members there. So I like nothing better than wandering around an empty theatre. I don't get spooked out by theatres at all. I know people can find them really spooky when there's no one else there, but I don't get that remotely. And I feel very comfortable. Theatres are my home, and it's where I feel most comfortable. And so theatre ghosts, you know, come at me, I don't care. So I realized if you're a theatre ghost, you're likely to be just another actor.
Very true. Very true.
So I really like the old theatres. The Frank Matcham theatres, there are lots of them around the country. There used to be a lot more. I wish there was still a lot more. But it became very uncool for a while. Then they knocked them all down and built really ugly buildings. And so the Frank Matchams, I'm a huge fan of. So all of those old theatres, the theatre in Leeds Grand, my head, that's extraordinary. And I don't think I could choose one, but actually, if I could choose one, it is actually one in New Zealand, which is the Civic.
Okay.
It's a Civic Theatre in New Zealand. I'm going to turn my phone off because the phone is just going off. It's the Civic Theatre, and if you have a chance, look it up online. It's extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary. They it's kind of it looks like a 1920s Maharaja's palace. Wow. Okay. It is fabulous. And when you're in the auditorium, it seats thousands of people. When you're in the auditorium, you look up and it looks like you're outside. The ceiling looks like the sky, and they have, as you look up slowly over the thing, there are little twinkling stars that pop up as you go along, as if it's getting darker. And then they'll have occasional shooting stars wafting across, and then they'll have projection of clouds, so it actually really looks like you're outside. It's quite extraordinary, and what it achieves is it makes theatre magical before you even start. And that's why I like the old theatres as well, because it makes theatre magical. So I couldn't choose one, but I choose them all.
Okay. What would you say has been your most challenging role to date?
I find them all challenging. Whatever one I'm working on at the time is my most challenging. But each one has different challenges. Like recently, because I was playing Frankie Valli, I find often these days I'm called upon to do roles which require what I call vocal acrobatics, where I'm required to do things which are extremely high. And I think because Riff Raff sings high, then people go, box me now, go, oh, that's what he does. Actually, before I played Riff Raff, I never sung high. Never sung high at all. I would call myself a light baritone. I'm most comfortable singing low. And it was a surprise to me that I could sing high. Don't know what I'd been doing in the years before that. But yeah, like Frankie Valli was the ultimate of that. You know, because I was fine singing high with Riff Raff because you just pop up there once in a while. Yeah. But with Frankie Valli, it's 26 songs. And for the majority of them, you're required to, you know, sing in a certain area of your voice, which is just, you know, normally Frankie's going to like a Frankie boot camp, you know, to make sure that you don't destroy your voice. And so that was the biggest challenge for me, because I was doing that. I was preparing for that during lockdown, so I was doing it by myself. And luckily I had the time during lockdown to do it by myself, and it kept me sane, but it was insanely challenging. Even just learning 27 songs is challenging. It takes a lot. For me, it takes a lot of repetition, and going over it. And for a while there, I really pity anybody else who's in the house with me, because you go through a period there where you're just not making very pleasant sounds. Yeah. And I think people just think if you're a singer, you can just open your mouth and come out with the sound that's just wonderful and perfect.
If only.
I mean, I'm sure there must be some singers out there like that, but I'm not one of them. I wish I was. I class myself as an actor, really, that just happens to be able to sing. I've never really classed myself as a singer, and which seems extraordinary to me now, even because I earn my living as a singer, but because musical theatre is singing. But it's crazy. I'm just, in my mind, I'm just not a singer. So I always have to work, when I get a role, I always have to work really hard to give the impression that I'm a singer.
Well, you're doing a pretty good job, so you're all right. So I think I might know the answer to this question, or an answer to this question, but what would your dream role or show to do be?
I actually think this changes now. It changes. And it used to be Hedwig. And I've been very vocal about that in the past, but I think I'm over that now. I think I've got that out of my system. And I was playing Frankie Valli. Playing Frankie Valli was an amazing experience for me, and I really loved the element of that show that had a real actor's element to it. And it was really grounding for me to do something like that. I think I'm adding Frankie Valli to that list now as well. I always wanted to play Dickon in Secret Garden.
Okay.
I'm a bit old for this now, but I always wanted to play Peter Pan. These are little fantasy roles now.
Choose anything you want.
Yeah, I would love to do some Shakespeare again. I would love to do more plays. For a stage there in my career, I never did any musicals. I just did plays. And at those times I was like, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if I actually got a musical? And but the opportunities never came up. I never got a musical. Even if I auditioned for them, I never got them. And it just wasn't meant to be at that point. And now it's the other way around. I never get any auditions for plays. I would love to do a play. And maybe even a bit of TV, who knows? Yeah.
I think that's what's nice about the industry. You plan to go down one route, but you never know what's around the corner. So you never know. You just kind of have to leave it to fate as to which direction you go in. And I think that's quite nice sometimes.
Yeah. It's really difficult to plan in this industry. You just have to be prepared to go through whatever doors open. And that's basically what I've done. My one skill in life really is being able to go through a door. Yeah. I'm quite open to being able to go through it and see what's on the other side and see where that goes, and just go with the flow. And I think some people can benefit from being really focused on one thing. But I've never been very good at that, because I've never been very good at sort of sitting and waiting. I know we're all doing that now, but I've never been good at sitting and waiting for something. I just prefer to be doing something, anything. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So what's been the funniest thing that's happened to you on stage?
Well, sometimes the funniest things are the worst things that happen to you on stage. I've had lots of experiences, because, theater is live. So, I've had very bizarre things happen, like huge uncontrollable nosebleeds while you're trying to do a scene.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And what's an interesting thing, which I didn't even think about before that, is you can't sing and keep a nosebleed in at the same time.
No, I suppose not. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to sniff, and you can't sniff and sing. Can't do it. So I went on stage and my nose wasn't bleeding, and then I started, the second before I started to sing, my nose started bleeding, and it wasn't just a little bleed. It was pouring out. I don't know what caused it. It was just pouring out. And and literally, because I had to sing, I was just covered in blood. I mean, it wasn't just a little bit of blood, it was blood everywhere. People must have just thought, wow, this is a really edgy production. But these things aren't very funny at the time, but in retrospect, you go, that's hilarious. But stuff like that. There was also that awful occasion, which I've talked about probably far too much online, which is where I was playing Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar, and I ate some biscuits that were left at stage door, and it turned out they were hash cookies, and it was my opening night, and I was playing Jesus. So that's a very notorious story now. So it's really done the rounds. Everybody wants to talk about that story. Vice magazine did an article on it. I mean, they were all Stone Jesus. What can you say about that?
I mean, it's a different
quite funny.
Yeah.
Sorry?
It's a different take on it, definitely.
It was a very different take on it. I was playing Jesus as a rock star, so we kind of made it work, or I believe we did.
Yeah.
But yeah, things like that happen all the time. Or you'll go out, and there was another time actually doing Rocky Horror. I think it was in Australia, and I opened the doors and go, Frankenfurter, it's all over, which is when Riff Raff takes over. And I think I wasn't feeling very well, and I didn't realize how unwell I was. And I went out there, and as I went to sing, I think I was about to pass out. Okay. And I think I must have blacked out for a second. And but I knew I had to sing, but my brain couldn't quite equate what I was meant to be singing. So I think I just made up the whole thing, but it was complete gibberish. Like, apparently the rest of the cast were like, you were talking about some sort of plane and maybe a telephone somewhere along the way. And they found it hilarious. I was devastated, but they found it hilarious. And and now when I get to that moment, this is the awful thing with the thing I was talking about, repetition earlier. When I get to that moment, that was about 1,000 shows ago. When I get to that moment, it crosses my mind every single night. I cannot stop my brain from being aware that happened and that it could happen again. Because your brain tries to protect you. It tries to protect you from doing those mistakes again. And so it just will not let you forget those. I wish I could have an eraser and go, squiggy, 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 squiggy. And because thinking about that 1,000 times is like, that's why you just got to be careful with nerves.
Definitely. So,
even though it was hilarious, everyone in the cast thought it was the most hilarious thing they'd ever seen.
I can imagine.
They were all there because I'm facing downstage and they're all facing upstage at me, so none of the audience can see them, so they were all like
So they can get away with just what?
They could get away with it. There was no they weren't remotely trying to hide their shock, glee, especially if you don't muck up too much. Then
Yeah.
people, when you muck up, then the rest of the cast have a little twinkle in their eye,
Yeah.
like they're loving it. It's the best entertainment ever for them.
Yeah. And they'll never let you forget it.
Cruel people.
So have you ever done a job that you've left off your CV because it was really bad?
I'm sure I probably have, but I've left it off such a long time now that I probably can't remember what it is. I don't know. Sometimes, fashions change, and sometimes as an actor, you do things that just to, keep on working. And so sometimes you would go, oh, this doesn't actually fit my image as an actor.
Yeah.
So you would just leave it off. But, I've always been grateful of all the work I've done. So, whether it be some sort of, children's show in a park or some big Shakespearean thing in a huge auditorium. I don't think there's many things I've left off my CV. Yeah, so you get to a certain point and you can't actually put everything on your CV.
Yeah.
It gets too long and it's like, who's going to read this? Does it really make a difference? Really, because you're an actor, if you go into the room and have had no experience at all, you go into the room and if you do the best audition that day, you're going to get the role, whether you've got 20 things in your CV or 0 things in your CV. It's it's one job that, it really goes on the moment and the person. You couldn't have been in the industry for 25 years and it wouldn't make any difference. Unless you're a celebrity, of course, that's a different thing altogether. Yeah. Okay. Then often you're famous for doing something completely different anyway.
Or something not on stage anyway. Yeah.
Something not on stage, yeah.
Yeah. So from the projects and shows that you've worked on, have you ever kept any props or costumes?
I used to try and keep something from everything I did. And I always made sure I kept a poster because that's something you can always guarantee that you can, if you ask in advance, that you can get.
Yeah.
But I did used to collect a lot of things, and then after a while you go, where am I going to put all this stuff? And after a while you realize it's all just a bit of junk. So I do keep some things, and like I'm here at the moment sorting through all my stuff, so I've got some of those things around me right now, and I have Riff Raff's first shoes over there. But to be honest, I think I'm actually going to sell them to a collector for charity.
Yeah.
I think because I look at them now and I go, I don't need to keep you. You are not my memory. So it's, sometimes something's really special or really different or really unusual, I will keep it. Like I have a little amazing 50s comic book that Richard O'Brien has kind of signed, and he's done a little drawing on it off and some notes on there. So things like that, which I'm like, that's irreplaceable. Yeah. But yeah, these days, as long as I got a photo from it, I'm fine. Yeah. A photo's easy to keep, easy to travel with.
Very true.
I don't live anywhere, so that idea of keeping stuff is a lovely thought, but not practical.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So talking of Rocky, you've played a couple of roles within Rocky Horror itself. Which one do you have the most fun with?
Again, this varies. I probably had the most fun with Frankenfurter. But the most fun, when I played Frankenfurter, the most fun times were when I was in New Zealand playing that role. Okay. And the reason is because I was just playing that role. I wasn't covering that role. I'd done the full rehearsals and the full thing as that. And when you do that, and it's your role and you can own that role and you've got freedom to fully do your own interpretation, then that's when you can have most fun with that. Yeah. And when I've played that in the UK, then I've always been the cover. And that's a different story altogether, because you might have to go on and do that with, say, an hour's notice after not having been on stage and done it for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
and that's never an ideal situation.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not really in a position there to be completely free with it. You're just trying to get through it without making a fool of yourself. Yeah. So, but I have fun with Riff Raff, and I have fun with all of them. I've played about 4 different roles now. I've played Frankenfurter, Brad, Riff Raff, and the narrator. And the narrator was fun. I loved the narrator because he could finally talk back at the audience. And and in years to come, when I'm a bit older, I would love to play the narrator again. But I'd love to do it properly, like as if I was rehearsing the whole thing, not just not just doing it for a little stint.
Cool. So what's the best audience shout out you've ever had for Rocky? Has there been something that's like shocked you all and you've just like got the giggles from it?
well, the Rocky Horror audiences are so tuned in and turned on with those shout outs. What's brilliant is when they come up with something new and something topical and something that's in the news, and they know where to do it and when to do it. And some of them have some great comedy timing themselves. They are performers or frustrated performers themselves. And I often class the Rocky Horror audience as the extra character. So nothing specific is coming to mind because there's so many of them. But sometimes people are just so incredibly clever with them that. And something what I love with the Rocky Horror call-outs is how something takes off. Like, because audiences keep on coming back, somebody will say something, in say a venue in March or something like that, and then it'll catch on, and then it'll keep on growing and growing through the months and months and months, and then before you know it, you've got like last tour there was something about the Minions. And then there'd be a minion that jumped up, like an actual minion from the movie. Jumped up with a banana, and that grew and grew and grew and grew and grew until there were several minions in the audience. I mean, it was quite an amazing thing to see. And I also like during There's a Light, one of the most nicest moments for me is when I open that castle window and I'm looking out. And it's my first entrance, and you can see lots of lights, and it's like watching, from my angle, it's like watching some amazing light show. Because it's really beautiful from my point of view. And I remember looking out one day, and somebody obviously didn't have can't do it with lighters anymore, of course, but people do it with their phones. And obviously someone didn't have their phones, but they had their laptop with them, so they opened up their laptop. And that took me. It's the small things.
That's commitment, though, to be fair.
It's commitment.
That's got to be heavy by the end of that section. Definitely. So what advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't take yourself so seriously. Put yourself out there more. I feel like I've had a pretty cool creative life, and which is certainly what I set out to do. And but I think at times you can just take yourself too seriously, and you just need to go out and have as much fun as possible.
Definitely. I think that comes with age as well, though, doesn't it? Because you just when you're younger, you think everything is so important and you worry about everything, and then you kind of get older and go, actually, it's not that big a deal. I just need to be in the moment.
Although the irony is, as you get older, you do less things and you go out more, you go out less, and
we do at the moment.
Even if you're young, you don't go out at the moment.
What's been your most surreal moment when performing?
Possibly, when you're surrounded by heroes of yours on stage, or you get to work with people you never imagined working with, like that the West End production about 5-6 years ago, whenever that was. And they did the live cinema thing where everybody was on stage there. You had Stephen Fry and Adrian Edmondson and Richard O'Brien and Emma Bunton and all these people on stage at the one time in the small little theater, and you go, oh, this is actually quite surreal. Then the teenage me from that little tiny town in New Zealand is standing on stage and with all these amazing people. I think that's probably surreal. And then you go, and also the realization of performing on the West End with it being beamed live out to an unknown quantity of people. That's surreal.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's cool. So is there anybody that you haven't worked with yet that you'd really, really like to work with?
I mean, not off the top of my head, but when I say there isn't, I mean everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, there's everybody I'd like to work with.
Yeah.
Every time I see something on Netflix and I go, oh, that's so amazing, I'd love to work with them. But I'm in the wrong side of acting. But there's lots of people I really admire. Actors, character actors, who change themselves into other people, because I kind of feel like that's what I aim to do. So anyone like that, I'm like, you guys are amazing. I would like to push myself more into those sort of things, but there's no one off the top of my head. Like I said, I'm just going with the flow.
Cool. So we've mentioned it before, Jersey Boys, you've just finished a run of that in New Zealand.
Yes.
How did that feel? Because you had packed houses, right? Over there, you were full. How did that feel going back into that as your first job after lockdown?
It was the most amazing experience I've had in a very long time. And I think at some stage during that production, we were probably the only theatre production happening in the world.
Yeah.
Which is quite insane.
Yeah.
And I think as a result, because we all realized that was the case, then we all made the most of our time. We made the most of our time on stage, off stage, in rehearsals. We had a fabulous time. And luckily, it's been a long time since I'd done a show in New Zealand. And I'd forgotten how down to earth and easy to get along with everyone is. And it was just a joy. I had a really good time, and I hadn't experienced this for quite a while, but when the show finished, I had post-show blues, and I hadn't experienced that in quite a while. It's like a relationship had ended.
Yeah.
And but I had such a good time, and it was glorious. And I realized how lucky and unusual that situation was, and being there, with full houses and everybody out in the bar socializing afterwards with no restrictions, no masks, that was surreal. That was quite surreal. Yeah. And it was something that would live with me for a very long time, because I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting to be there. And I was just very lucky. Yeah, I was really, really lucky. Yeah.
Cool. Right. A couple of fun questions. So 5 favorite musicals.
Sweeney Todd. Don't know where that came from. I've never said that before. Sweeney Todd. Secret Garden. Urinetown. Jersey Boys, Rocky Horror.
Nice. You're having a dinner party. You can invite any 3 guests, dead or alive. Who do you invite?
Vincent Price.
Nice.
Lucille Ball.
Okay.
I'm going with the theme here of old. Johnny Depp.
Nice. That's an interesting conversation at a dinner party.
It'd be a great dinner party, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay, quick fire round to finish off. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Sun or rain?
Rain.
Oh, okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
I didn't know the answer to that one.
I'm dog obsessed.
Sweet or savoury?
Oh, sweet, unfortunately.
Comedy or tragedy?
Comedy.
Musical or play?
Or I would go tragedy.
Yeah.
Comedy, tragedy. I'm in the middle there.
Okay. Musical or play?
Musical.
Meat or veg?
Veg.
Hugs or kisses?
Kisses.
Night out or night in?
Night in.
I think we've all become so used to it now. It's going to be quite scary to go out again.
I can't imagine a night out anymore.
No, it just scares me. Tour or West End run?
I have to be tour.
Favorite film?
Oh, favorite film would be Edward Scissorhands.
Nice choice. Favorite book?
Favorite book would be why is this coming to my mind? The self-help book. The Secret.
What was it, sorry?
The Secret.
Oh yeah, okay, that's a good one.
I don't know why that's come to my mind.
Ultimate comfort food?
Lemon meringue.
Nice. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been lovely chatting to you.
Oh, my pleasure.
And hopefully I'll see you soon at a stage door.
I hope so too.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.